Let's say an AI data center is coming to your neighborhood. It's easy to feel like you've been chosen for the future. Like the Avengers just set up headquarters next door. But then you look at the cost. Enormous amounts of electricity, millions of liters of water, and hundreds of acres of land. And yet, surprisingly few jobs. New York, Texas, Virginia, all states in the US that are shutting down data centers. Estimates say that in just the first 3 months of 2026, $130 billion worth of data center projects have been blocked or delayed across the US. And here's the strange part. While other countries and communities are asking questions, India is competing to attract more data centers. To the extent that the government is inviting companies to set up data centers in ecologically sensitive Great Nicobar and Little Andaman. Think about that. In Andhra's Visakhapatnam alone, proposed data centers add up to around 9 gigawatts. So why is India inviting this boom? What does it mean for our water, electricity, and land? And when people call this a new form of colonialism, is it just rhetoric, or is there something more to this argument? Let me explain. For this episode on data centers, we wanted to go beyond just picking up information from here and there. So we spoke to people on the ground who've been affected by these projects, activists, technology experts, and bureaucrats in different states. But that kind of reporting takes time, travel, and money. And it simply isn't possible without your support. Now, we can all sit back and complain that journalists aren't doing enough. But if you think this kind of reporting matters, here's your chance to do your bit. Become a subscriber or contribute to our reporting fund. Now let's break this down. An AI data center isn't just a building full of computers. It's essentially a giant factory for computation. Now, instead of a factory that takes raw materials and produces, let's say, cars or steel, a data center takes enormous amounts of data and computing power and produces AI models and services. And like any other factory, it needs resources. Land, electricity, water, and eventually people. So here are the questions we need to ask. First, where does the water, land, and electricity come from? Second, how many jobs do these projects really, actually create? And finally, who is really benefiting from all of this? Let's start with land.
మరి మనిషికి 2 ఎకరాలు లెక్కనే 40 మంది 50 ఇద్దరమే 50 ఈ ఊరు ఎస్సీ వాళ్ళమే 50 ఇద్దరికి మనిషి 2 ఎకరాల లెక్కనే ఇంద్రమ్మ ఇచ్చింది. అప్పుడు భూములు ఇచ్చిమని మమ్మల్ని పోరాడారు. వాళ్ళు వచ్చి అధికారులు వచ్చి పోరాడారు. బాబు మాకు ఏటి లేదు, మాకు ఇదో ఆస్కారమో, మాకు మా తాతండ్రులు గడించింది, మాకు ఏటి లేదు, ఈ 2 ఎకరాలు ఆ తల్లి ఇచ్చింది, మేము ఇలా సంపాదించుకొని ఇప్పుడు మేము బలపడ్డాము అంతే. లేదమ్మా మీకు పర్వాలేదు, మీకు డబ్బు ఇస్తాము, మీకు ఉద్యోగం ఇస్తాము, మీకు అన్నీ న్యాయం చేయిస్తాము అన్నారు. అంతే న్యాయం చేసినా మేము ఇవ్వనిస్తాము. ఇవ్వనిస్తే మా ఊరి నాయలు మాకు సపోర్ట్ ఇచ్చారు. పర్వాలేదు మీకు ఇస్తారు, వాళ్ళకి ఇచ్చేయాలా, గవర్నమెంట్ ఇచ్చిన భూమే కదా, వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన భూమి వాళ్ళు తీసుకోరా, వాళ్ళ సమయం తోడు తీసుకుంటారు, మరి ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళు తీసుకోకపోతే మిమ్మల్ని నోక్కుంటారు అని మమ్మల్ని బెదిరించి తీసుకుంటారు.
Ramakrishna is the resident of Tarluwada. She was cultivating land for years when it was acquired for the Google Adani data center project. Like her, nearly 50 landless Dalit families had given up their land. And this is where the scale becomes important. The Google Adani project in Vizag has been allotted more than 600 acres. Some of that also includes land belonging to the Simhachalam temple. Some of the project land is also close to the Kambalakonda Wildlife Sanctuary. So now there are legal challenges around the land, wildlife, and the environmental impact. Therefore, the first question is pretty basic. When we say India is building the infrastructure for the AI boom, whose land are we building it on? Now to the question of water. Data centers aren't ordinary computer buildings. The chips inside them get extremely hot. They need cooling. And depending on the technology being used, that could mean significant amounts of water. The scale is difficult to even imagine. Google's data center campus in Iowa used 1 billion gallons of water in 2024 alone. That works out to more than 10 million liters of water every single day. For comparison, a city like Bengaluru needs around 2,600 million liters of fresh water a single day. But hey, this isn't Iowa. This is Visakhapatnam. And Visakhapatnam is already water stressed. The city gets around 410 million liters a day against a stated requirement of around 480 million. Water rationing is common. The Andhra government says projects such as Polavaram and the new desalination plants will provide enough water. They insist that drinking and residential water will not be diverted to data centers. But activists aren't convinced. And even the technology companies themselves acknowledge that cooling systems differ. Google says its WISAC project will use advanced air cooling. The environmental documents for the 3 Google Adani parks say that at least 2 of them would require around 500 kiloliters of water a day for each of them. Karnataka government told us that the 32 data centers, most of them in Bengaluru, use around 4,000 kiloliters per day. Now 9 more large data centers are going to be set up in the state over the next few days. Now remember, this is nowhere near the Iowa figure, which is why we shouldn't simply take the largest water use number from the US and assume that every Indian data center will use the same amount. But when a project like the WISAC one is touted to be amongst the world's biggest, the question still deserves to be asked. Where will the water come from? And who gets priority when there isn't enough? Which brings us to the next resource, electricity. The estimated electricity requirement for the Google Adani WISAC project is around 1.6 gigawatts. There are also hundreds of diesel generators that are kept for backup. And the Union Ministry of Power projects India's data center electricity demand could reach around 13.6 gigawatts by 2031-32. That is a huge amount of power. And governments are already making special arrangements for these facilities. Telangana, for example, exempts data centers from the statutory power cuts. So here's the question. If a data center is guaranteed uninterrupted electricity, what happens when there is a shortage? Because there will be. Also, who gets priority? And there's another development worth watching. Andhra and Uttar Pradesh are giving data center companies distribution licenses, allowing them to generate, transmit, and buy their own electricity. India is also opening up private participation in nuclear power. And officials in one of the southern states told us that discussions are going on around using small nuclear reactors to generate power for these facilities. Google says 66% of the energy used across its data centers come from carbon-free sources. But in the Asia-Pacific region, that figure drops to just 12%. So the question isn't simply how much electricity these data centers consume. It's also where that electricity will come from and who pays for the infrastructure needed to provide it. Now let's come to something governments often point to as the big benefit: jobs. Because if you are giving companies land, power, water, and tax concessions, you need to be able to explain exactly what the public is getting in return. And one of the biggest arguments is that these projects will create high-paying jobs. Karnataka government told us that the 9 new data centers, which will make an investment of 24,000 crore rupees, will produce 2,694 jobs. Andhra Minister Nara Lokesh says the data center ecosystem in Andhra could create close to 60,000 high-paying jobs. Now that does sound impressive, but look at the project proposals for the 3 Google Adani parks. They list just 1,725 permanent jobs and 300 temporary jobs once it starts operation. Even though the 60,000 number is for all data centers put together, where are the jobs coming from? Now, it could include construction, as you need thousands of people, and those jobs do matter. But once the building is up and the machines are running, you need far fewer jobs. That is the nature of a hyperscale data center. It's extremely capital intensive. So if the government is offering land, electricity, water tax concession and other subsidies, we have to ask a very simple question. What exactly are Indians getting in the bargain? Because governments are not just welcoming these companies, they are actively paying to attract them. The union budget has offered a tax holiday until 2047 for foreign companies providing global cloud services using Indian data centers. India also allows 100% foreign investment in data centers through the automatic route. The union government says investments of around $70 billion are already underway, with another roughly $90 billion already announced. States are offering incentives too. Telangana has classified data centers as essential services and offers support around power, fuel, land, internet, water, and even security. And Telangana is planning a 1,500-acre data center at Alur. Andhra offers capital and power incentives. For the Google project, the 22,000 crore rupees package includes a 25% discount on land, a 25% discount on industrial water, reimbursement of state GST during construction, and electricity and water subsidies that continue for many years. So the next time you criticize a free bus pass for women or welfare measures for the poor, think of this statistic. So let's put that on screen. Land, water, electricity, tax breaks, public money. These are all the things India is putting into the AI boom. And in return, we are told we will get investment, jobs, and a place in the global AI economy. Which brings us to a much bigger question. Who actually captures the value? Because this is where you start hearing a very loaded word: colonialism. Now, obviously, nobody is saying that a foreign technology company is literally setting up a colony in India. The argument is about the pattern. Historically, colonial economies often involve taking land, labor, and natural resources from one place, while the profits and control accumulated somewhere else. So look at AI. The models are built using enormous amounts of human-created material: books, websites, code, images, conversations, and research. The physical infrastructure requires land, water, electricity, and minerals. There's also a global labor chain behind AI, from data labeling to content moderation and other low-paid digital work, much of it outsourced to countries in Asia. So you have resources and labor coming from different parts of the world. And you have companies that control the computing infrastructure, the models, and increasingly the services built on top of them. That is why some activists use terms such as data colonialism or digital colonialism. The question is not whether foreign companies are automatically bad. And it certainly isn't that India should reject technology or investment. The real question is whether India has enough bargaining power, regulation, transparency, and most importantly, public participation to make sure that the value created here doesn't simply flow elsewhere while the costs stay here. Think of it as a pipeline. Land, water, electricity, and other resources go in. Computing happens here. And then the question is, where does the value come out? And Indians aren't the only ones asking it. New York imposed a statewide moratorium. Amsterdam has paused new construction. Australia is moving towards rules around water use and electricity demand. And India has seen resistance too. People in Thane and Vishakhapatnam have protested. In Vizag, children have even marched with signs that say we cannot drink data. And that brings us back to where we started from. This isn't about saying AI is good or bad. It isn't about saying India should stop building data centers. India clearly wants a place in the AI economy. And there is a legitimate argument that we need this infrastructure if we want to compete. But the infrastructure has a cost, and somebody pays that cost. So when a government says it is bringing an AI data center to your city, the question shouldn't simply be how much investment is coming. It should also be who's paying for it, directly or indirectly.